Hey, folks, don't mind the sun blazing in and burning me right now. There's nothing I can do about it. I just had this thought and this memory, and I just wanted to share it really fast because it's something that I don't know. I just thought people might relate to, or maybe not. I don't know. Either way, I when I was like 18 or 19 years old, I worked for a magician. Now, that's something that a lot of people don't know. I only worked for him for about a month. It was me and two other guys, and basically our job was to organize and clean their warehouse. It was him and his assistant, who was also his wife. Now, this is little to do with anything about the story. I can get into that time as essentially the cleaner of the magician's wardrobe and warehouse, but I'll make that another video. For now, as we were cleaning up this old warehouse, now the warehouse had been used. I don't remember what it was like used as like storage for a publishing company or something like that before he had it, but it was old. It was like he had it now, like not now, but when I was working for him, obviously like 30 years ago, but he had it at that time. And he had cleaned it out somewhat, but not really well. Mostly had just shoved his shit in there, and so he had us go through and, we got to kind of play with all the different tricks and he would show us how some stuff worked. So I know a little bit about, certain things in stage magician. He was like a quick change guy. That was like his claim to fame. So I didn't know how they did that. They kept that secret, but a lot of the other stuff we got to see. Well, as we were cleaning out this warehouse, I there was a corner of the warehouse, and in that corner was kind of like a box, and we went to go move it, not realizing, like, we were just kind of in the zone moving stuff, and we moved it because it we didn't recognize that it was actually kind of like bolted into the wall. So it was about, I would say, maybe 3.5 feet tall, and probably, I don't know, maybe probably about the same wide, right? Like it was probably like more of a cube than anything. So I go to pull on it to try to move it, and it's bolted to the wall, and I'm looking all over. Coming to find out that the box had like a door on it. That it was a little off to the side. You couldn't really see it from where we were, and so the door would basically open up to the wall, and we didn't like we were it was down on the ground, so somebody had to get down there, me, and had to look in there to see what the fuck this box was because nobody had any idea. And inside this box was a little tiny chair, like for a little toddler, a handmade like doll, like a little girl doll, and like a little tiny table. So at some point in time in the history of this warehouse, there had been a little girl whose dad, who I guess probably owned the warehouse or whatever, had built her own itty bitty tiny room where she could go and she could sit and to play with her doll, and she would, I guess, wouldn't make any noise or wouldn't get hurt by the people moving stuff or whatever, but she had her own little corner. And I thought about that. For some reason that memory popped up in my head just a few minutes ago, and I thought about the fact that, I had cleaned this whole warehouse out and we saw this. And at the time it was kind of spooky. It was really spooky. I didn't like the doll was old. Like this is probably like when this warehouse was built, which could have been, you know, 1920 something. I don't know. But it was old and it was beat up. You could tell it was well loved. And I think about it and I just think about, first of all, what a crazy thing to find, but second of all, kind of an amazing thing to have that little story. But I think about this all the time, actually, just not this part of it, but I think about the little things, like when you're driving down the road and you see a warehouse or you see a building, and you think about all of the memories that other people have that are tied to that thing, right? That they're tied. There's corners of like the break room where you work, where somebody got a letter or opened up a text that changed their life, right? Like a horrifying moment or a great moment. Do you ever think about those kind of things? Like the fact that like the kind of the emotional resonance of certain areas. Like when we found that little cube, obviously we had no idea what it was, and you could almost feel without even knowing that there was something special about it. But we were working in a magician's warehouse. Everything kind of had that magical quality to it. So it was, it didn't really stand out at the time, but when you saw what was in there, and it kinda sets in over time the way that, like, oh, some little girl, this was, like, everything for her. Like, this is her childhood memory, was getting to go into her own little office. That is a formative memory that happens in this place that is now just this box in the corner of a warehouse. She probably had no idea where she was, right? Like, she didn't really probably grasp it because she had her own little world in there. They hadn't, like, wallpapered it, but there was, like, crayon drawings and shit on the inside of this wooden thing. There was no air conditioning in it, so it was probably got pretty hot pretty fast, but I don't know, I think about that all the time. I think about, like, when you move around through this world and you look over and you see, like, off in the distance, there's just some building and you're like, "What the fuck could possibly be over there? What could happen there?" And then you recognize not just that obviously business happened, whatever reason it's there, but, like, the human memories, the human interactions that took place there. Like, people lived, their life. That's how they made their living, and then they, went off and did whatever. They went off and died, right? Some people probably died in some of these buildings that you look at, like, not houses necessarily, that's not, but, like businesses and stuff like that. Think about the things that happen to you at work, and then recognize that as the buildings that you walk into from time to time are generation upon generation upon generation old, and then you start those stories aren't told, right? They don't get shared. When somebody was sitting on the toilet in their, wherever office somewhere in some warehouse, and they got a message from their wife that, his dad had died, right? He's never gonna forget that moment, right? Like, but there's just something about that moment happening there in this place that now people just walk by and they don't think about it and they don't care about it. And I don't know, I just think about that kind of, like I said, emotional resonance that happens, that takes place. And I can't say that I necessarily feel it all the time, but there are times when you're like, something important happened here. And it's kind of humbling. And I don't know, I was just thinking about it and I thought, I wonder if anybody else ever feels that or thinks about that. Or am I just, like, completely and totally insane? Am I just, like, thinking about random shit that nobody else cares about? That's probably the truth. But anyway, I'm here to share. So there you go. Take care of yourself, everybody. Take care of others. I'll talk to you soon.